Okay, so here we are again, and now baby Claire is out.
Yes.
It's funny because the first two videos you had the baby in your belly and you were sitting, your posture was like, it was funny to edit those videos. So now baby Claire is out, and I think she has brought a lot of new emotions into our family. There was some things that I was expecting, some things that I was not expecting, but I think that we're overall just so thankful to God for the experience, for trusting us with another baby, because she belongs to Him. And we're here to take care of this new baby and to make sure she grows to be a saint. So it's a big responsibility. We're so happy, thrilled, and tired, but we're here. I can talk a lot about what she has brought, but you delivered her. Do you want to go into what it was, how you feel now, how different it might be from what you thought it was going to be, what you were expecting, what you were not expecting?
Yes, yes. So, welcome back, guys. We're back on A Family's Little Way. And we're so happy to be here and share a little bit of this experience and what a joy it's brought to have our fifth child. So, that's what we're going to be talking about, like what it's been like these last few days, weeks. So, it's been like a month, and we are now
A month and a half
a month and a half
right now.
And we are parents. We are parenting now 5 kids, and it's a true blessing. Honestly, we are super tired. That's just the truth. This is hard work, but it's beautiful work, right? And it just brings so much joy to our hearts. Like, yes, it's a full house, it's a full car, but our hearts are truly fuller. You cannot imagine, like, the love is just grows and grows, and that's just what I've been feeling. I cannot thank God enough. I never thought I would be a mother of 5.
I was about to ask you that. Did you ever think that you were going to have 5 kids?
I it all really goes in what is passed down to you. I think that's why it's so important. Like, what are we teaching our children? What are we putting in their hearts, in their soul? Because if maybe I was coming from a large family, I would kind of like have that joy of what it might be like. But I didn't come from a large family. My brother and I are actually 8 years in between. But I always imagined that motherhood was something beautiful, but it was never really like expressed to me, which is not our family's fault, parents' fault, because things just get passed down. But now that I'm experiencing this, and the Lord has transformed our hearts and has been so merciful with us and given us the gift of life and being able to have children as in our family. And I think it's just been something that each step we've been like, okay, like, He's been opening our heart, because each child has brought just so much joy, even though there's like hard days and we're tired. But ultimately, like, each one is so unique, their personalities, and just brought so much joy into our family. There's just more beautiful. There's so much grace that the Lord gives also. As the more we have, the more grace needed. But yeah, so that's pretty much how I've been feeling. I've been feeling that there are a lot of surrenders in this season with littles, but I feel like it's been the Lord's gift and calling for us, even though we
Yeah.
never thought about it. We never thought he's just been planning it out.
Yeah. And I think there's something that I want to that I want to touch on, and it's, we have 5 kids, and we talk a lot about the lack of sleep that we get, how little time to ourselves we have,
Mm.
how hard it can be to have 5 kids in the house. But I was talking to a friend of mine last week. He just had his second child,
Mm-hmm.
and he is so tired. He has gone through, the first 2 months have been, I don't know how to describe it. I mean, I've gone through it. I know what it is. And if you have kids, if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, you know what it feels like. You know what those first 2 months, I call them the survival months. You know what they feel like. You're just surviving. So even though to me having 5 kids, yes, it's a lot. I believe that having one kid, when you have your first child, the experience, what you feel, how tired you are, how happy you are, the emotions, the roller coaster of emotions, how little time you have to yourself. I think it's very similar. It's very similar. So my friend would tell me last week, he said, I've been so exhausted and it's been such a challenge. But whenever I'm going through this, through something really hard with the baby, I think of you. Like how can Louis do it with 5 kids? And he told me that, and I said, hey man, number one, I he said, who do you think of? Because I think of you, because you have 5. Who do you think of? And I said, bro, I think of my wife, because ultimately, at least I get a little bit of sleep. But to respond to what you're saying, I feel very similar to you. There's very little sleep. There's a lot to do. Very little time to yourself. It's not just 1, but 2. Now for me, it's not just 4, but 5. But I don't think that it multiplies in the way that people would think or that we would think. Because we have 1 kid and we have a second one, I think it's very similar to when you have 3 and then you have 4, or 4 and then 5. And I'm saying that I'm talking from my own experience. I don't think that is 5 times as hard.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that. Yes, there are other challenges, but I know mothers and fathers from that are first time parents, and they go through a really tough season. Probably even worse than what we've gone through with our number 4, number 5 now. So I do believe that it's a myth that because you have 5 is 5 times as hard. That's not true.
Yeah,
It's not my
I would
experience.
disagree. Yeah, in our opinion, I think we would think a little different in our opinion, because I think, one, to begin with, there's trust, right? It's trusting that we're going to get through this season, and as the Lord has given us this child and chosen us as their parents, is because he's going to give the grace and that we were chosen. And I love thinking about it like that, and that we are called for this child, and this child has a mission. So when you think about it like that, it's like the Lord will give us the grace and we have to trust. And that helps me a lot. And also, I think a lot about Mary in this season, in these first weeks, in her sacrificial love for Jesus, in knowing her calling and trusting God. So when I look at her, I think about that, and I'm like, please give me all your graces, pour them onto me.
Yeah.
So that gives me hope. And then also, when you're talking about like the difference in amount of children, I think, one, the graces, right? As I mentioned, the Lord somehow starts, giving you the grace you need in that season for 2. And then if you're called to 3, then, somehow the grace comes. For me, actually, 2 was a hard season for me, verse 3, because it was my first time needing, adapting to like learning, growing in the sense of like juggling now 2 little hearts, 2 little souls needed. And the other child is needing me also, right? But now that I have 5, it's actually more like finding a rhythm. It has been hard, but at the same time, those 4 kids can entertain each other and play with each other. And, they'll play magnet tiles and they'll play Legos, or, they'll watch a movie together. There is a lot of play between them, or conversations. So that gives me a lot of breathing time with the baby, and my older one now is growing, so she's not as needy of me. She can read a book, a chapter book.
Right. It's not like having number 5 is now we have 5 under 2.
Yes.
Or 5 newborns.
And I've seen that in large families. We've met now a lot of large families where I think we mentioned this in another podcast. We got invited to a friend's house. She has 8, and we were able to sit and like hang out with them at the table because all her other 4 kids were cleaning up the kitchen.
Yeah.
We were like talking, and we're like, wow, by the time we finished eating with them and we're about to leave, their kitchen was almost clean because all the other 4 kids had already cleaned it up.
And we loved it. I loved seeing that.
And we got to just hang out with them too. And then the other littles were like playing in the living room. So we're like, wow, like it gave us so much inspiration and hope because we're like, okay, like we loved it. We loved seeing that. And that's joyful.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a calling, and I think it's something that is a marriage and it's family that is open to life. You have to consistently pray about and be like, okay, is this a season that are we completely open to life, or Jesus, is this your calling for us maybe? And discerning it and seeing if sometimes the Lord might stir your heart later on, or, it's something that I think marriages have to discern.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like what you said. It's a calling. I have never felt fear about having kids. I have always had this thing. I mean, not before we had kids, but after, when we had our second, I felt like number 3 was going to come at some point. And I felt thrilled about it. And I said, hey, that's pretty cool. Usually people have 1 or 2. If we have 3, I think it'll be pretty cool. We had number 3. And once we had number 3, I said, well, if we have 1 more, it's 4. And yeah, it might sound like a lot of kids, but my God, if it happens to us, I think it'd be pretty cool. We'd be a family of 4 kids. I wonder what that feels like. And then we had number 4, and it was such a gift, Number 4, I remember almost everything from the moment we found out, because, I think we really wanted it, especially you. Like, you were getting tested all the time, and it would say negative, and I'm like, okay. And
that's so true. I did have a desire for a 4th child, and I was very excited.
And you kept, getting tested, and you were like, negative, and I'm like, okay. And it was one night where you were like, hey, and you showed me, and it was positive, and I was like, oh yeah, it's positive. That's pretty cool. And it was so funny because I usually when you're going to reveal to your spouse, especially the woman to the man, that you're pregnant, you would do it in this creative way, and let me do something, bake a cake with a baby, I don't know, something like that. But at number 4, I thought it was just so funny how it was more like, oh hey, I'm pregnant. I'm like, oh hey, that's pretty cool. And we rejoiced. It was a beautiful experience. And then when we had 4, I said, I think we're done. 4, I think it's our number. And then out of, I don't know exactly what triggered this, but we were once again open to another baby.
Yeah, somehow we
And
ended
it
up.
didn't scare me. I said, well, it'll be a family of 5. I never dreamed of something like that. But yeah, I'm open to it. So
And it's
that's
also because I'm sorry,
that's okay.
but it's also because I feel like who we surround ourselves, or we never really met large families that were like
Yeah.
joyful about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not like, oh my God, this is a burden. No, like
Mm-hmm.
joyfully big.
Yeah. And that is huge. It's all about who you surround yourself with, because after number 4, we started hanging out, or we moved, and we joined a Catholic homeschool community where families had many kids. Not
Before we
all
used
of
to be
them.
one of the larger families,
Right.
which is okay. We love all, like, it was just a new experience to be around new large families.
Yeah. So, how they say you're a product of the 5 people you hang out with the most. So we're hanging out with different families here that are not afraid of life. And maybe that's what got us into having another baby.
That could be.
Without necessarily planning it, but more being open to it. And that's what I mean by a calling. It's something that is very particular to you. I believe that as humans, yes, we're called to reproduce. So it's everyone's calling, right? And but I don't think that it's everyone's calling to have many, many, many kids. I think you have to be aware of where you are in your life. And there's so many things that you have to think about. In our case, in our particular situation, that's why I think it's a calling, because I'm just not afraid of having kids. Now, having number 5, I have said to you many times, I think we're gonna stay at 5, because it has been a rough season, and to me the hardest part has been, juggling the newborn and the 2-year-old. I think that has been the hardest part for me.
Even though we said that at 4.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
it's
I'm still not
yeah.
afraid of having more kids, but
Discerning,
but
always discerning
yes.
the next, God's call. It's God's
but
call.
I that's what I want to put the most emphasis on, and it's the calling. If you have fear in your heart, I'm not saying that having more kids is something that you should be fearful of, but you do have to go deep into that fear. Why is that fear there? Because maybe you're right. Because maybe where you are in your life, or the context of your life, there is a foundation for that fear. So your calling is to have maybe 1, maybe 2, maybe 3. And me, I only have 1 brother. I never wished I had more. It was just, it never crossed my mind. My brother has been my best friend my entire life. So I have never needed another brother or a sister. Maybe had I had another one, it would have been cool, I'm sure. But
that's
what
also
we had,
beautiful
of course.
too.
So it's not about the number of kids that you have. It's how you raise those kids. Because my mom always told us, if you're going somewhere, you go with your brother. If your brother is not allowed, then you stay out as well. She taught us to be always on each other's team, looking out for each other. And I think that's why I never needed someone else, or more brothers or more sisters. Now when we get together, I don't wish that we had more people in our family when it comes to mom, dad, brothers and sisters. So the calling is not to make you happier because you have more kids. I think it's a calling to each of us. And it's going to be different.
Like, vocations, you
Right.
know, like not everyone's called to marriage life. Maybe some people are called to the priesthood or becoming a sister or being dedicating, you know, their lives to another service. But I believe that like you said, it's just a calling. And I also think that we have to discern how much we love. I think that's also something important. Like, it's not just about having a lot of kids or little kids, regardless if it's one, two, three, four, five, six more. Um, we heard this once. How generous are we in our love? So that's how I discern, to be honest. I look at myself and I'm like, where am I in my love tank? If I'm slacking and I'm feeling empty and I realize I need to fill my love tank again with God and Jesus, and I need to find some quiet time, or I need to find little things to fill it in again. But also with my children, how generous am I being with my love for them? So if when I'm feeling like, if I am feeling limited, then I feel like regardless if we have one, two, three, whatever the God calls us to as a family or gives us, right? Because there are many marriages that, unfortunately, God calls them maybe to pray or have be spiritual parents for others, and it can be challenging to have a child. But for us, I think it's like, how generous are we in our love? How well are we loving? Or, like you said, your mother, you guys just were two, but she was generous in her love, and that's why you never felt like you needed more.
Yeah.
And for us, each of our child has a calling. So if the Lord blessed us in love, now we can bless all these children in love. Even though we're going to make mistakes, we're also broken humans, you know, we're trying our best to heal and plant good things in their souls, but it's not easy. But the Lord still uses that, you know. And I think also one thing I heard that I thought was beautiful for for some mothers is that the Lord opens and he closes the womb, you know, so he's the giver of life. And talking to him about it, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. So whether you have one or eight, I think it's all about the amount of love that you are pouring into your kids.
Generosity and love.
Generosity and love, listening to God's voice in your life, responding to the calling, because ultimately I think it comes down to that.
Praying for our children, planting good and beautiful, healing as parents, right? Because there's so much healing to be done, but he still uses us for our children.
I think also that whenever you answer your calling, whether it is in priesthood, in marriage life, having children, having many children, when you're responding in a positive way to a calling, you are going to pull through. You are going to make it. It's going to work, because you didn't just sign a contract with a big company. No, you're saying yes to God, so He will back you up. So I have on my phone, on the screen of my phone, the screensaver, I have Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And that is what I think about when I'm having a rough day at work or in my marriage or with the kids. I know that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, because I am responding to his calling. And that puts so much confidence into everything that I do. We have a friend that dedicates his life to evangelizing. And a lot of times we wonder how he does it, because he really trusts the Lord with everything in his life. And sometimes it gives us a little bit of anxiety. We're like, hey, how are they doing it? But he's not a fearful person because he's answering that calling. So even though he might be in a difficult situation, he knows that God will not abandon him because God put him there. So he didn't bring him there so he could die. So same thing with kids. If you have that calling,
He brought them here.
yes. If God brought me here, he didn't bring me here to let me go or to drop me. No, the complete opposite. So I keep that very close to my heart, and that's what I would like to share. If God is calling you to go somewhere, that calling comes with strength, and it comes with courage. And courage doesn't mean not being scared or not having fear. Courage means taking the step forward despite, or taking the step forward even having fear, even being scared. But if you know that it's a calling, then you know that you can do all things through God who strengthens you.
Amen.
So
I like that. And I think we have to trust. We just have to believe. That's faith, right? And I think if the Lord has trusted us with these souls and these little humans, they're his. And for the time that they're here, we're called to plant as much as we can, teach him his ways. And that's kind of what I have in my heart. Yeah. That if the Lord has gifted me these children, it's because he wants us as parents to lead them to heaven. Mm-hmm. And even though we're broken, he still uses us as instruments for them. And I feel unworthy of the job sometimes, but I feel that he's still going to give us what we need, like you said, to trust that we can make that happen. And I feel like I love the stories of the saints now, young saints, because it makes you believe, like telling those stories to your children, sharing with them, like Carlos Acutis, Saint Therese, all these beautiful stories of saints that were young and desired heaven, loved Jesus. And probably some of them came from a family that was taught that the faith, others not. But they somehow Jesus got in their hearts, and they were on fire for him. Yeah. So I have hope of that. Like I have hope that if God trusted us with these souls, is because he has a special mission for them here.
Well, that has been our experience with baby Claire, who is soon to wake up now. What
we've been going through, and our thoughts on this whole experience.
We didn't even go into details, but we're a month and a half in. I think we mentioned that, and yes, it has been survival mode. And once again, we're on a daily journey to discover what God wants to do through Claire in our lives, and ultimately what God wants to do in the world through Claire. And as parents, it's our job to take care of this little baby and make sure that she knows that God loves her, that she's the daughter of a great king, like we tell our kids before they go to bed.
Yeah, and definitely I feel like not being afraid, right? Yeah. Of having more kids, because I mean you'll never regret it. It's beautiful.
if you are afraid, it's understandable, and I believe we have to walk, or we have to dive into that fear and find out what's going on.
Yeah.
Because there's something going on.
Now,
right?
Also one thing I did not mention is postpartum season, regardless of how many kids, like, you need to forgive. Forgive fast, because there will be tired days.
Yeah.
We're tired, and some feathers will be
Yeah.
ruffle some feathers, but we'll get through it, and we forgive, and that's in any hard season or changes in the family going on.
Yeah. And if it's just, and if having, to whoever's watching or listening, if it's just to avoid the amount of sacrifice and how difficult it can be, it's understandable, but I would leave you with this phrase. Avoiding the difficulties in life, it's exactly what's keeping you from experiencing what's truly satisfying. And that phrase has helped me in many areas of my life. Don't avoid difficulties. Face them head on.
Is that from someone?
From Matthew Kelly. But after I use a phrase 6 times, I will quote the person 6 times. After that, it's mine.
Oh, nice. All right, guys.
Thank you so
thanks
much.
for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.